students, today we shall continue with the poem The Daffodils by William Wordsworth. So I have given an introduction to the poem in our previous class. Alright, now today we shall read the poem in detail, right? Okay. Now, what we shall do is, now we shall look at the poem proper. As I told you, the title Daffodils were given later on. The original title of the poem was the first line of the poem. I wandered lonely as a cloud. And this title was changed by the anthologists. Anthologists are publishers or people who publish collections of poems, of all the poets, all the great poets. And one amongst them is the Palgrave, the standard anthologist of all English poems, is all poems by the greatest English poets is Palgrave. So they gave it a name. They changed the name into Daffodils, or some put it as just Daffodils. Okay. Others, the Daffodils. Alright? Now this why the change was made was because the first title, I wandered lonely as a cloud. That's a somber title, a gloomy title, something that suggests a lonely mood of the poet. But in fact, the poet is not talking about his loneliness, but the joy that the sight of the daffodils brought to him. And therefore, the change that they have made in the title of the poem is a proper one. Okay? So this is more appropriate. Daffodils, or the Daffodils title, is a better title to this particular poem, because the poem is basically talking about the happiness the poet got while seeing these daffodils. Okay. So that's about the title, and then you will find each of the stanzas have got 6 lines. Altogether, there are 4 stanzas of 6 lines each. Alright? So a total of 24 lines, the complete poem, the entire poem. And this particular poem is basically a celebration of the beauty of nature, and he has described the landscape, the trees, the lakes, the daffodils below the trees and beneath the trees, and all around. So this is basically a description of nature, the landscape. Okay, and then so you have 6 lines, 6 stanzas in one line, and there are 4 stanzas altogether, making up 24 lines. And this is called a rhyme scheme. That is, the rhyme scheme that is followed here is, let's see. Okay. Alright. The rhyme scheme is A, B, C, C. Alright? A, B, C, C. So you find that the first line rhyming with the third line, and the second rhyming with the fourth line, and the last 2 lines rhyming with each other, and this we call a couplet, a rhyming couplet. Alright? Couplet means 2 two lines, upward. Alright? A rising couplet. Okay. So you have here, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of the bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. So that is the first three stanzas. So we shall take up stanza by stanza. The last stanza is last stanza. So let's have a look at the last stanza as well. For oft when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude, and then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. Alright, now the last four lines, for instance, reminds us of what the poet thought of, or what is the poet's definition of poetry. So he says a poem is a powerful feelings and overflow of powerful feelings or emotions. That's what we consider as a proper definition of a poetry. We also call it emotion recollected in tranquility. Emotion recollected in tranquility. Now, as you see, the poet had an experience in the year 1802 when he, along with his sister Dorothy Wordsworth, went around the Lake Country, and he was so taken up by the view of a belt of daffodils along the shore. And when he recalls that 2 years later, it is in 1804 that he wrote the poem, in fact, and he's recalling that experience. Therefore, you can say it's a powerful feeling or emotion recollected in tranquility at a much later period when his mind is at peace. He recollects it. So it is an overflow of powerful feelings. We shall find that he pours out his feelings, and that's why we call this poem a subjective poem, because the poet is talking about his own feelings. And that was one of the characteristics of all the romantic poems. Okay, now we shall look at the first stanza today. Okay. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills. So what is the poet telling here? So the first two lines the poet says, you must have seen this cumulus or clouds or patches of clouds that are floating aimlessly. And the clouds are traveling in the sky or floating in the sky. And the poet says he was walking among the valleys and hills in the lake district of England, aimlessly. Alright? And lonely, alone, all by himself. Of course, Dorothy was with him, but he says, I was alone in his own world. He was not undisturbed. Just like the floating clouds that you see traveling in the sky, the patches of clouds or cumulus that you find floating in the sky aimlessly. So he was also roaming about or wandering about just like them without any aim in the Lake District of England. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Then something happened. All at once, suddenly he noticed he saw a crowd, a host. He calls it a crowd and a host of golden daffodils. So a crowd and a host both suggest a large number of numerous daffodils. And these daffodils were golden in a color. The golden color, that means yellow flowers, yellowish flowers. And he saw, where did he see? He saw them beside the lake, by the side of the lake and beneath the trees. They were growing everywhere below the trees and by the side of the lake, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. And what were they doing? They were fluttering. What's the word? What's the meaning of fluttering? Moving their wings like butterflies or birds, fluttering. Dancing. Dancing is a movement of human beings. Alright? Moving their heads, moving their limbs the same way. And that was caused by what? The breeze. Okay. So the flowers were not standing still, they were moving, they were shaking, and their movement is compared to the movement of birds or butterflies, in the words fluttering, and the movement of human beings by the word dancing. So therefore, what quality is attributed to these flowers? So this is what we call a personification. Personification. When the qualities of living things are given to non-living things, when the qualities of living things or humans are given to non-living things, we call it a personification. And who is personified here? The daffodils. The daffodils are personified here. The daffodils are personified. Okay. Now, the daffodils are personified. So one of the qualities that are used here is the daffodils you find are personified. Given the qualities of human beings and birds. The examples are fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Dancing is a movement of humans. Fluttering is movement of birds or butterflies. Then we have another figure of speech, a host and a crowd. That suggests large number of flowers. That suggests large number of flowers. So it's also you can call this crowd an example of a hyperbole. Alright, a figure of speech. A figure of speech, hyperbole. And then we have I wondered as lonely as a cloud. When we make a comparison, so the poet is comparing himself to a cloud. The poet is comparing himself to a cloud. And when such comparisons are made using words such as or like, we call it a simile. Alright? So you have the number of years of speech already coming there. The first line is you've got dancing and wandered as lonely as a cloud. That is an example of a figure of speech, that is simile. And he saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. That suggests an example of a hyperbole. Hyperbole is an exaggerated expression. Alright? So a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. And that refers to basically a large number of flowers. Beside the lake and beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. And fluttering and dancing, they are examples of personification. Okay. Now look at the next stanza. Continues as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretch in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. So here you have this word continuous as the stars that shine in the sky. Again, another example of a simile. These flowers are compared to what? The continuous as the stars that shine in a galaxy. Milky Way is our galaxy. Alright? Okay. Now the flowers, it says, they were spread out continuously as far as he could see. Just like when you look at the night sky and you look at the Milky Way, you find that it seems to be never ending. In the same way, the flowers seem to be never ending or everlasting. Alright? So, continuous. It continued. This belt was just so large, so as far as he could see, it stretched out. As the stars that shine and twinkle. And what are they compared to? The stars. What is the color of stars as we perceive it from the earth? It is golden in color. Okay? Golden in color, and they shine. So also the flowers were shining. Just golden, just like the golden stars shine in the night sky. And twinkle on the Milky Way. Twinkle. See, the stars shining we call twinkling, because it's a kind of blinking that we experience when we look at the stars. It looks as if the star is blinking, and we call that therefore twinkling. Okay? So twinkle, twinkle, little star. That's what we learned in our kindergarten. The same way. And the Milky Way, I told, is our galaxy. They are stretched in never-ending line. See, it's more or less a repetition of what he has said in continuous is a never-ending. What is this never-ending line mean? Everlasting. Never seems to come to an end or finish. Alright? Along the margin of the bay. Along the margin of the bay. Along the margin, that means on the shores of the bay. Alright? Bay is the lake or the shore. Okay? Along the margin. Margin means the shore. Along the shore of the lake or the bay is where the the water body comes a little into the land. So like for instance we have the Bay of Bengal, the same way. Okay. 10,000 saw I at a glance. That's an exaggerated statement. 10,000. He could not have possibly counted 10,000 at a glance. Alright? So this is an exaggerated statement where again another example of the figure of speech, a hyperbole, where you make an exaggerated statement. Alright? So there. So along the margin of the bay, 10,000 saw I at a glance. So this is an example, I said, of a hyperbole. Right? Hyperbole, an exaggerated statement. Tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Again you find the flowers are personified. Tossing their heads. Tossing means moving their heads. In sprightly dance. In a lively. Sprightly means lively. Full of energy, full of life. Sprightly dance. Just like a human beings. Human beings when they dance, they shake their heads, they move their heads to the left and to the right, or to the front and to the back, always tossing their heads, moving their heads in a sprightly dance. So who were dancing? The daffodils were dancing. So here again you have an example of personification. Example of personification. Alright? Okay. So we have taken up the first two stanzas and I have given you a few figures of speech that are there. So the atmosphere, though the poem starts in a rather gloomy mood where the poet refers to his loneliness as he wandered like a cloud among the valleys and hills in the lake country. But later on you find the sight or the sighting of the flowers, daffodils, brings joy to him. Okay, we shall stop at the end of second stanza for today, and in the next class we shall take up the next two stanzas. Alright? Okay. So, see you in the next class.